Awesome. Hey, I don't know about people in the room, but I'm going to be a bit all over the place today because I just feel tense, hey? Like, it hasn't lifted. It's like, my brain's a bit foggy. So if I am a bit all over the place today, can I please just ask for just a little bit of forgiveness? I'm meant to be a professional, but it was like 80 minutes of just tension. So I'm just trying to keep my head on at the moment. And I don't know about anyone else, but I'm a bit of a sports junkie. So for me, it wasn't just 80 minutes of tension this morning. I was up all night watching the Black Caps fall just agonizingly short. When Mitchell Stark bowled that 5 wides, I thought we had it, but no. Sorry, digress. See, I told you I'm just in a funny place mentally today, but I appreciate that you're people full of grace. Hey, next week we're starting a brand new series called Shuffle, and what I wanted to do was just take a quick minute to help you understand what this series is all about and why I enjoy it so much and why I think it's such a cool opportunity for us as a church. A lot of you have been around for years and years and years, and so you've seen us do Shuffle so many times, and we've done so many songs over the years. But the way Shuffle works is we take a pop song, we perform it, and then we use that to sort of lead us into a message. So we might take the theme of the song and talk about that. We might take a line of the song that's really well known and be like, hey, let's extrapolate that a little bit. Well, there might just be a few words in there that we're like, man, we just want to drive that home. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is the misgiving that some people have sometimes when they come to Shuffle is like, are you teaching us about a song? It's like, no, we're not teaching about a song, but we're using a song, something that almost everyone knows and hopefully hears again and again and again on repeat when they put the radio on, as a way to make a link to what the scriptures teach so that every time they hear that song in the future, they remember what we talked about. And in Acts 17, there's this account of Paul, and he's at Mars Hill, and Paul's with these people, and he wants to teach these people who know nothing about Christianity. And when Paul's there, he says, hey, as I was walking through your city, I saw that there was a statue or an altar that said, to an unknown God. And what Paul did was he took something that was known in the culture to those people, and he said, hey, you might think of this as about an unknown God, but can I tell you I know the God? And he used what was in their culture to link them through to a message all about who God was. And that's kind of what we want to do with Shuffle. We don't really want to teach what the songs teach, but we just know that that's an incredible platform because so many of those lyrics are locked in people's heads that we can then springboard off the back of that, take something that's culturally relevant, spring it back and be like, hey, here's a biblical twist to this. And hopefully the prayer is every time they hear that song again, they remember what we spoke about. Does that make sense? So it's a whole lot of fun. I'm trying to remember what songs. We've got a Taylor Swift song in there. We've got a Luke Combs song in there, which everyone's going to love because it's a remake of an old song. So you either know the new version or the old version. You're in one of the two crowds. A few of us might know both. And then there's a couple of other ones too, but those are the two that are coming to mind right now. So we're going to have heaps of fun with that over the next 4 weeks. And what else did I want to say? Today we've been working through this book, Philippians, and it's been a bit of fun, working through the chapters of that. And today I was going to dive into a passage in Philippians 4 that, man, I was so excited about. And in fact, I very rarely do this, but on Tuesday I came back into the office, and Tuesday mornings in particular is the time where I really try and dive into what I'm teaching on a Sunday. And I came back, I'm like, man, I'm pumped for Sunday. This is going to be so good. And I never really say that, do I? I just came back in and was like, man. And then and the funniest part about it, it was all about contentment. And then we had some stuff happen, and on Thursday I thought, actually, that's not quite right to be talking about today. I felt discontent about talking about contentment. But what I've done is I've got something that's going to help you out, okay? Because as we've walked out for the last few weeks, we've been given a card, and we're going to give you Philippians 4 to read on your own this week, and we've just been encouraging people to read that with us. But what I've done, just to buy myself some space here, is this is really good, just putting it out there. It's fantastic. This is a little card that's called Learnings from Philippians. And what it's got about 15 or 14 or something around that. Just key lessons from Philippians with a verse attached to it. And so if you want a really good overview of Philippians, and hopefully for a bunch of us that we've been reading this over the last little while, man, this just locks and loads like some of those key teachings from across Philippians. And in fact, some of these can be incredible things to pray over yourself or your family or other people. Some of these can just be important reminders. I'll give you a couple of them. In all our working, God is working in us and for us. It's got a verse, Philippians 2:13. Another one, the worst suffering for Christ is gloriously rewarded. All our joy is not finally in things, but in the Lord. And so that's from Philippians 4. So there's some real good stuff in there. So if you feel like you're getting ripped off today, you're not. That's like 6 weeks worth of teaching in that card right there. Yeah, that's good. That's good. And then I've got one more for you, because it was about contentment, and I've done a lot of work on contentment, so I thought I'm just going to give this out, and 2 people are going to read it and be stoked, and everyone else is going to make a paper dart, but that's all right, because it's printed in black and white, so it doesn't cost much, okay? Well, what this card has got on it, it just talks about contentment. And what Paul does in Philippians 4 is he says he's learned to be content when he's got heaps and when he's got little. And on one side of it, it's just got some thoughts to think through when you haven't got much. So contentment and lack. And there's some thoughts, again, tied to verses in Philippians to really help you when you're like, man, I don't feel like I've got much. And on the other side is the side that applies to most of us. And the reason I say it applies to most of us is because this is contentment with plenty. And you're all sitting here going, I haven't got much at all. The reality is, because of where we live in the world and what's at our fingertips and what's at our disposal, we are people with plenty. You might not have as much as the neighbor, you might not have as much as most of the people around you, but the reality is, because of where we live, because we've got roofs over our head, because we've got food in the pantry, most of us, not all of us, most of us are in a place where actually we've got to learn to be content with plenty. And for a lot of us, that's a challenge. And so again, there's just some thoughts, and that ties back to some verses to help you just learn how to be content. Is that all right? That's my summary of Philippians chapter 4. We're done. I wanted to. I just really thought on Thursday, and again, that would just be really good to talk about, because over the next week we're going to make some pretty big changes around here, right? And we're going to be moving from one service into 2 services. And with that, there can be a huge amount of excitement, and we're hoping people are excited about that, because the reason we're doing that is, man, because what we're seeing God doing, and the fact that you're all inviting people, and the room's getting full, which is awesome. But it also can bring a little bit of hesitation and what's this going to mean? And so I thought, hey, let's just talk about that. Let's just address it and really, hopefully, cast a little bit of vision and share the heart behind it and what's going on. The basic stuff I have to get off. Sorry, I've got notes today. I never really have notes, but I have got notes today because I made all this up in the last minute. The most important thing, or not the most important thing, important thing I have to communicate today, I'll get told off for not communicating, is thank you so much for filling in that survey that went out last week to help us get an idea of where people are sitting and what people are wanting to do. Well, we'll send an email out to confirm this, but if you're like me, you miss a few emails from time to time. So I'll just say it. What have we got? If you indicated on that survey you're in that middle category, I don't care, I'll do whatever's best. If you could please come to the 11 o'clock service, we would very much appreciate that. If you were in the category that said you'd prefer 9:30 but can do 11 a.m., if you've got kids or intermediate age people that go to those programs, we'd love it if you would be able to come along at 11 o'clock just to help balance out the numbers in the kids space in particular. If you've put that and you're an adult and you're like, or you're a teenager or you're a young adult and you're like, I've got no young people with me, you just keep coming along to 9:30, that's cool. But it's just, if we can get a few more kids coming to that in that 11 o'clock spot, that'd be amazing. So you guys know what you're doing. And one of the cool opportunities we have with the 2 services is you've got that flexibility. And so we just know, looking at that off the bat, that the 9:30 one with families in particular was looking quite busy, and the 11:30 with families wasn't so much. But as I said last week, I know there's a whole lot of people here. You just keep doing what you're doing, come to the 11 o'clock, and it'll work out absolutely perfect for you. Cool. Okay, so one of the things that we use a lot, or as you go through life, there's
sayings that you use often, and a word for that's axioms. You have these axioms that you go back to over and over. And around Life Switch, we've got a number of what I'd call axioms that we hear around here all the time. And hopefully, if you've been around for a while, you've heard us say this once, twice, maybe so many times you're like, stop saying that thing. If you're new, you've probably never heard these, but I'll tell you a couple. Well, one of the ones that we use often is every question deserves a conversation. That when it comes to Christianity, when it comes to our faith, that we want to be a place where, man, if you've got questions about stuff, well, we don't want to just give our blanket statements, but we really do believe that every question deserves a conversation. And so if you've got questions about things, raise your questions and ask them in a way. And oftentimes people are looking for others to make blanket statements. We're like, no, we think that's a big question. Let's have a conversation around that. Another one that ties into this is this idea of, we say, dive into your doubts. Dive into your doubts. If you're wrestling with Christianity in particular, if you're like, man, I don't know anything about Christianity and I'm wrestling with this, man, and you've got doubts, we encourage people to dive into those doubts. Or maybe you've been a Christian for a while and stuff happens in life and you start to doubt, is God real? Is God there? Does God care? What we encourage people to do is to dive into their doubts. And for a lot of people, that's a surprise. But the reason we encourage people to do that is we know that the rigor of our faith is so strong that when you dive into your doubts, you actually don't lose your faith. You actually grow a stronger, more powerful faith because you've actually looked into those doubts rather than letting them linger in your head. And another one would say a lot is we can accomplish infinitely more together than we can apart. And in particular with our surf team, that together, what we can do, when I can bring the best of you and the best of you and the best of him and the best of her, and then we all bring our best, man, we can do so much more together than we can as individual people. We'll often say, people matter to God, so they must matter to us. People are God's priority, so they have to be our priority too. And we'll say that over and over to remind ourselves of the reality that Jesus didn't die for an institution or for a program or for a building. Jesus died for people. So people matter to God. They have to matter to us. What else? We would say you love an invisible God by loving visible people. The way we prove our love to an invisible God is by loving the visible people who are around us. And another one is we'll say that life is better when Jesus is at the center. That every life is better when Jesus is at the center. And the more you move him there, and the more you place him at the center of all that you do, the better life is. So we have these axioms that we often talk about and throw out around here, and those are some of them. And what I wanted to do today is just introduce you to another axiom that we probably haven't said, but actually is true in life. And maybe, just maybe, this could be a bit of a launching pad and a catalyst where we'll start to use this more and more. But the axiom is simply this. And then if we put up that first slide, it's sometimes, next one, that was what I was meant to talk about, but skip that. I deleted all my other slides. Sometimes you've got to give up something you love. Something you've got to give up something you love. And in life, we always make choices, right? And oftentimes choices are really easy. When you've got something that's really important to you and something that's not important to you, it's really easy to make the choice, isn't it? Like if you said to me, Clint, would you rather go and play a round of golf or watch ballet? It's like, I'm not even going to think, right? I'm not even going to ask who's in the ballet. I'm not even going to ask what it's called or where it is. Oh, what course are we playing? Let's go. I like golf, don't. Ballet's not my thing. But the hardest decisions we make in life are when we've got two things that we like, two things that are important, two things that we value. And I think this is where this axiom is so powerful and can mean so much. And it's simply this. Sometimes we've got to give up something we love for something we love even more. Sometimes we've got to give up something that means a lot to us in order to pick up something that means even more. And a lot of us experience it, but we have to do this in life sometimes, right? Like So some of us have got jobs that we love, but another opportunity comes along, and you've got to step out of that job that you love. And some of us have jobs that we hate too, and work with people that are like, But sometimes you've been in a place where you've actually been in a job where, man, the team's incredible, the place is incredible, and it's like, but there's this opportunity. I'm going to walk away from something I love in order to do something I love even more. We kind of love freedom as people, right? I don't know about you, but I quite like autonomy. I quite like deciding what I want to do. But when you get engaged or you go to get married, what are you doing? You're parking some of that autonomy, you're parking some of that freedom in order to have something that you want even more. Maybe companionship or intimacy or whatever it might be. A really nice ring, I don't know. But those are the hard decisions. When you've got to give up something you love in order to grab hold of something you love even more. And that's what I think we're really doing next week when we move to 2 services. When we make this transition from being here, and hasn't it been so special seeing what God's done with us in this room with the 10:30 service and the way that has grown and the lives that have been impacted and the people that have been receiving prayers after services, the way that God's infused hope into various people at different times, the way that he's challenged and confronted people at different times, the way that connections have been made. And you look in the cafe and you see these people sitting with those people and you're like, how cool is that? Because I can't imagine those people ever crossing paths out in the wider society, but here in church, they're sitting together, having meals together. Isn't this awesome? And there's something really cool, if we're really honest about it, right? When you come into a room and there's a room full of people, it's just quite nice. It's energetic and it's engaging. And there's something nice about when you've been doing it for a while. You're like, we know how things work. It just keeps going. We just kind of know what to expect and we know what to do because we've done it before and we've done it before and we've done it before. Yeah, in order to make the transition that we're making next week, man, we've got to rework what we're doing. We can't just keep doing what we've always done because it's not going to work anymore. We've got to move times forward. We've got to, I'm used to getting up out of bed at this time and doing this in the morning, and now if I do that, I can turn up to church and I can walk in the door at 10:28 and I can be on time and get it all done and blah, blah, blah. And we've got to make all these transitions. But what I just really wanted to help us understand and what I wanted us to really grasp today and in just a few minutes that I've got is that the reason we are doing this is because we want to make space. And the reason we need to make space is because people matter to God. Because people matter to God. And we want to do all we can to see people connect with God. No matter their age, no matter their stage, no matter what their current belief system is, we want to see people connect with God. And we don't think there's anything better than seeing people connect with God. Because we are convinced to the core of who we are that every life is better when Jesus is at the center. And in this room, there's so many different stories of how people have come to faith, of how people have grown in their faith. For some of us, right, we grew up in a household where faith was never talked about, where like faith was just not even there. It was just not a thing. There was work, there was money, there was be a nice person, all of this stuff, and then that's cool. And then at some stage in our life, faith became real for us in some way, shape, or form. Maybe we met someone. Generally, it comes through meeting someone. Maybe someone said, hey, why don't you come along to church? Maybe someone said, hey, why don't you listen to this? Maybe you're going through a crisis and someone put a book in your hand and then that had a faith background to it. But at some point, man, you came to faith through something. Or you started investigating Christianity because of something. Other people in this room, like you kind of grew up and it was all you knew, right? You grew up and it was like, man, before you were a week old, someone had already taken you along to church. That man, as soon as you were born, you had this incredible community of people that were already praying for you because that's the power of a church family and what people in churches do for one another. That you think back through your childhood and you're like, man, I can remember being in this Sunday school environment or this kids environment or this youth environment or this, and it's kind of all you've known. For some of us, we might have grown up like that and we drifted away from that and maybe started to drift back because things happen in life. And everyone's different, but what's really at the center of all of our stories when we drift away and come back, or we've never been around Christianity and we come towards it, Or even for those of us that grew up in a church environment, what's kept us there? It's always been someone, some people, a group of people that cared for us, someone saying, hey, come with me, come to this. Can we pray together? I'm doing this study. Do you want to come along to it? I'm running this group. Do you want to come and be part of it? Can I pray for you? How can I pray for you every day? How can I encourage you? And what's at the core of it for so many of us is just our connection with people. Our connection with people. And for those of us in the room that have been around faith for a while, like there's probably names that are coming to your head that you're thinking, man, because of his influence, because of her influence, because of their faithfulness, because she never gave up on me, because, man, he came and sat with me every single week, because she came and introduced herself to me, because I started working with them, because I came alongside and I met that family when they moved into our street is one of the big reasons that I'm here. And don't get me wrong, through all of this, God's proved himself incredibly faithful. And then the Holy Spirit's maybe had some incredible moments where you're like, wow, God is so here right now. But what is so key in it for most of us is just this connection with people. And I just want to say, hey, from next week, we're going to have all of this space that's available here. And all of us connect with different people in different spaces and different places. And this is, I believe, the power of the church. Because all of us we're all here, we're all in this room today, and we're all together. But as we go from this gathering and we start to scatter around the place, man, all of us have got our own pockets of influence. I've got this pocket of influence in this building down in Lower Hub because that's my work environment. Someone else is like, well, I've got this sphere of influence in this workshop out the back of Upper Hub because that's my sphere of influence. And someone else saying, man, I've got this sphere of influence in this little cafe because, man, that's where I'm located all the time. And someone else saying, I've got this influence in this classroom. And someone else, I've got this influence on this train because I'm on that train every single day. And someone else, well, I'm at the drama club. And someone else who wants to come and beat me up at the end, I've got this influence at the ballet club in Upper Hutt. And I've got in all the dance school, and everyone there likes me. And what I just want to encourage us to do is go, hey, man, all of the people that we're around every single day. And some of you, again, you don't need to be reminded of this. You kind of know this to the core of who you are, but others of us, I don't know about you, but I'm in this case, you just need to be reminded that people matter to God. That they matter so deeply and so personally to Him. And we've got this incredible opportunity as we go every week to be surrounded by various different people. And one of the study that's just come out of Australia, which I know isn't as good a country as New Zealand, so the numbers here might be even better. But in Australia, they've just done this big Christian study. And they discovered that 25% of the population would be happy to go along to a church if someone invited them. You get that? 25% of the population would be happy if someone said, hey, would you come? And the reality is, so come on, so some of us, man, we've invited people, we've tried sharing our faith, and the rejection comes, right? And people are like, nah, not my thing. No, how do you believe that? Are you a dropkick? Like, do you have a brain? Did you know a real interesting stat? See, I told you I'm all over the place, but this is a real interesting stat. They're doing these stats in America at the moment about people that are walking away from the church because it's really high. Do you know that they've discovered that the higher educated someone is, the less likely they are to walk away from the church? In fact, the percentage of people that grew up in the church that go on to get a master's degree or higher, the percentage of those that have actually walked away from their faith is like single-digit percent. Crazy, eh? Because everyone thinks it's the opposite. It's not. The more educated, it's unbelievable. Sorry, that's just a side note. But some of us, come on. We've tried inviting people along, and we've been through seasons where we're like real good, and we're real evangelistic, and we're real passionate about, man, whether it's talking about our faith, sharing our faith, sharing our story about how we came to faith, or inviting someone along. But what can easily happen is we just go through seasons after we've sort of done that for a while that I give up because I keep trying, and it got nowhere. And there's probably someone in the room right now, and you're going, oh, Clint, well, you're talking about this today. Today's the day I finally got my friend to come, and you're talking about this. What are you doing? If that's you and you're that friend here, can I just say something to you? You're lucky you've got a friend that's invited you along. Because listen, you'll be safe around most Christians because most Christians won't invite you along. Most Christians won't share their faith. Most Christians will keep it to themselves. So if you're here today because, man, someone invited you along and they're probably freaking out and I'm going, Clem, why do you have to talk about this today? What are you doing? Can I just say you've got an incredible friend. And honestly, most Christians you're safe around, but your friend's the real deal. So kudos to your friend. And that's what it's like, right? Because that was a joke in a way when I say that you're safe around most Christians, but the reality is we know most people are safe around most Christians because we worry, because we freak out. And I'm not saying it's easy, but man, I just think what we never want to lose is that evangelistic edge. And then that's one of the reasons why if you go out in the foyer today, we've created a whole lot of these shuffle cards. Because again, we just know, and I know this through personal experience. And do you know how awkward it is sometimes to say to someone, hey, you should come to church and listen to me talk? I find it easier to invite someone to church when they don't know what I do for a job. When I can avoid that part, I can say, you should come along, because otherwise I feel like, But we've created these cards. And then the only reason we create these cards is because it's so much easier to say to someone, hey, I'm going along to this on Sunday. Why don't you come and sit with me? And if you can give them something, it just feels a little bit nicer and it takes the edge off it. So we've got a whole lot of these shuffle cards out there that we encourage you to grab some and distribute them. And there's also other ones that have been made that are just more real generic ones. So whatever you prefer, can I encourage you to take those? And Jesus told the parable, right, of the guy who came in just scattered seed, the farmer who scattered seed. And some of the seed that got scattered went nowhere. Some of it started to grow, fell away. I think there's 4 types of seed, but I can only think of 3 right now. And we'll fix it up at the end. And another dash of seed went out, and that seed grew, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew, and it got planted. And you look at that story, and you look at your own life, and it's really easy to focus on the first bit of seed that goes nowhere. Maybe I'm not that good at casting seed. But I think the power in that story, the message of that story, is just to look at what's my responsibility. To cast the seed, to throw the seed. I'll do my part, and I'll let God do the rest. And I just want to encourage us to be like, hey, what would it look like for each of us to say, hey, I'm gonna use some of my relational influence to invite someone to church. And the way I think in the day and age in which we live, if you just go and invite people you don't know, it's really hard. But the best way to make a difference in someone's life is firstly to build influence with them, and then to leverage that influence. You see, it's really hard. If I come up and someone I don't know, hey, man, you should come along into this thing, and they're like, who are you? Like, why would I listen to you? You're a dropkick, right? They wouldn't say that to you, but they'd say that to me. But if I can actually build a relationship, if I can build a connection, they go, oh, Clint actually is quite a nice guy. He actually talks politely to me. He takes an interest in my life. He's helped me out in this space or in that space. And I start to build influence. Then I've actually got a position where I can go and leverage that influence and say, hey, why don't you come? Why don't you come with me? And just talk about this as being as an invest and invite strategy. Invest in relationships, and then invite people along to church, or find a way to be able to share your story in a way that sometimes I'll just be like, cool, let's talk about something else. Other times I'll be like, wow, I never knew. I never knew you experienced that. Wow, I never knew that part about you. Can you tell me more? And those are the moments where it's so, so special. Well, let me finish by saying this. And again, this is an account that I share so many times, and some of you are sick of it, but that's all right. For me, it's just so powerful. Luke 15. Luke 15, Jesus tells 3 stories. He tells a story of a missing sheep, then a missing coin, and then a wayward son. And the reason this means so much to me, or there's 2. The first one's this. Jesus never told 3 parables to make the same point, apart from this one time. This is the only time in the whole New Testament where Jesus tells 3 parables to make the exact same point. Bang, bang, bang. I don't know if we've got a bunch of teachers in this room. How many times do you have to say the same thing 3 different times for it to lock in, right? It's like I really don't trust the intelligence of my class. I've got to take them through 3 different examples to really get this. Or what I'm going to teach them today is so important. I've got to teach it 3 different ways so they never, ever forget it. And that's what Jesus does in Luke 15. He tells a story of a sheep that's gone missing. And a shepherd that makes sure the other 99 are right, but then walks away from the 99 to go and find the one. And he finds the one and he picks it up, puts it on his shoulders, and he brings it back. And the coolest part about it is then they talk about this, now they have this big party to rejoice the fact that this sheep was found. It tells the story of a lady who had a crown with 10 coins, and she's lost one of the crowns. They don't have electricity. She's scouring her house trying to find this missing coin. How do you find it in a room where we've got no lights, you've got no torches? She's tossing everything apart trying to find this coin, and when she finally finds this coin, again, she rejoices, and there's this party. And there's a story of the son who asks for his inheritance early, and he takes his inheritance and he runs away and goes and spends it all, partying, living it up. One day he realizes, after he's run out of money, and realizes what he's eating, that even the slaves in his dad's house have a better life than what he does. So he goes back to his dad and says, Dad, can I come home? And what we're told is the dad sees him in the distance and runs to him. It doesn't say, told you so, you're an idiot, you suck. He runs to him, hugs him, puts a nice coat on him, and then he throws a massive, massive party. And do you know one of the coolest lines in this that no one even notices, but it's actually really cool? There's this line in there that they have this party, and then the party's so big that people can hear the music and the dancing. How big a party does it have to be for people to hear not only the music, but the dancing? That's a pretty awesome party, if people can actually hear the dancing going on. This party's going off. And Jesus just makes it so clear, and he says, this is what heaven is like when one person who doesn't know God comes to know him. There's this party that erupts in heaven. And that gets me every time, because that's what Jesus came to this earth to do, to seek and to save those who were lost. And when people that don't know Jesus come to know him, man, all of heaven stops and all of heaven erupts. And for a whole lot of people in this room, you've had that point, you've had that moment in your life where you've, man, I'm going to put my faith, I'm going to put my trust in Jesus. Do you know at that point, heaven stopped? Your name was on the big screen. This is just made up Clint imagery. Your name is on the big screen. There's photos of you all around, and everyone's going, look, 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 look. And heaven stops to celebrate you. How cool is that? But they don't just do it for you, they do it for every person. People matter to God. And so that's the first reason I'm passionate about this, man. Jesus was so clear. This is so important. This is your role. And I guess the reason I'm passionate about it too is because, well, I grew up in one of those houses where we never really talked about Christianity, where I had no idea there was a God who loved me. I had awesome, man, my parents are great, fantastic, best people you could ever meet. I had everything I ever needed, I was able to play sport here, I was able to go to school, did well at school, got sent to a good school, all of this sort of stuff. I had so much going for me, but man, we just never, ever, Christianity wasn't even a thing. I remember when I first became a Christian, I was asking my sister about Easter. She's like, I just think that's about Easter eggs. Like that's where I grew up, right? We didn't really know anything about Christianity. And when, man, I really got to understand how loved I was by a God in heaven, that he cared about me, like not just about them, but he actually cared about me so much that he was willing to come and die for me. Man, that was crazy. Well, when I had to change my mindset from being like, man, the way you make the right sports teams, the way you pass school, the way you get a job is by working your absolute best, by climbing as hard as you can climb, by doing the absolute best you possibly can, and if it's good enough, you'll make the team. If it's good enough, you'll pass the exam. If it's really good, you'll get an A. Man, to realize then I don't have to prove myself to God because of this thing called grace. It was unbelievable. It's so special. And so many of us have experienced that, where God's grace has got a hold of us in such a unique, powerful way. What we want to do is make it as easy as possible for other people to experience that grace the way that we've experienced it. That's why we're going to all the effort to run 2 services. That's why we're making space. That's why we pull back. We used to have an all-in, which was such a cool time with the team that was serving out in the cafe every Sunday, and it was really nice and was uplifting, it was cool, and yeah, it was us. We can't have that anymore. We're giving up something we love for something we love even more. And I don't know what names and stuff more God might be dropping into your head right now. But I pray that he is. I pray that he helps you see those spheres of influence that you've got. I pray that he gives you the courage to say, hey, come sit with me. Come sit with me. Two little tips. It's real easy to do. 2 tips that are real easy to do. The first one's this. When someone says, what did you get up to over the weekend? It's real easy to talk about, I went and watched my son play rugby. Took my daughter to her ballet lessons. I went to work, had to do this. Do you know how easy to say, went to church, it was awesome? Or, whatever. Just drop it into the conversation. What did you have the weekend? It happens every Monday. You got the same opportunity, week after week after week after week. What did you want? I went to church, it was mean. Yeah. Clint was a bit all over the show because he was too tense from the rugby. But the chicken burgers were unbelievable. Hey, and we're going to have cafe after both services, so don't worry about that. That's an easy one. And the other one's this. Social media today is huge. Social media today is huge. Without even saying anything, do you know if you share a post, do you know that can go and reach a whole lot of people? And people will go, oh, you go to that place? If I knew you went, I would have come ages ago. That's often what happens, right? People are like, oh, I didn't know you went to church. Oh, if you go there, that looks cool, I'll come with you. You didn't even have to ask, they'll sometimes ask you. But you share it once, you share it twice, share it a few times. Don't share everything, you look like a weirdo. Sorry, Mindy, she does all our social media stuff, she's told me off for saying that, but you will. If you share everything, like, oh, we're wacko, don't do that. Just be smart, share good stuff, ones that mean something to you. All of a sudden, it just creates an awareness. People know that you're a person of faith, and it opens incredible doors. Well, let me pray for you, and for me. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much that you loved us enough, that you were willing to step out of heaven, to step out of the comforts of that, to come to this earth and endure so much pain and humiliation and shame, man, because us, people, we matter so much to you. Oh, I thank you, Jesus, that you showed us the heart of the Father by the way you lived your life. And Father, I pray you can help us to prioritize people as you prioritized us. I pray that you'll, help us see that we've got this ability to sow seed. And we're so scared sometimes to cast it. We're so scared sometimes to throw it. And you make it clear that we're not responsible for the results, but we are responsible for the casting. So I pray for all of us, Lord, that you'll help us to cast seed. I pray you help us to be intentional about what we do. I pray you'll help us to build relationships and then leverage those relationships so people might come to know you. Father, I pray for those of us in the room right now that maybe have tried so hard in the past in the space, but have just gone cold. I pray that you'd light a fire in them, that you'd reheat their evangelistic edge, and that you'd use them in such a special way. Father, I pray for those that have always been tentative, that have always been scared. I pray you'll give them courage, Father. They don't have to go and have a big debate or conversation, just a simple invite, chance to share their own story. So I pray, Father, you'll give those of us that need it courage. But Father, I pray that we'll do this so that we'll see people come to know you, so that they can have the experience that so many of us have had when we've been overwhelmed by how good you are, where your grace has got a hold of us and never left us the same, Father. I pray that we'll just hear more stories of heaven rejoicing as people come to you because we do what you ask us to do. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. You stole my thunder, Clint. I had one thing